Now, it's nearly impossible to predict all the different stations you'll encounter during the MMI. However, there's two ones that you can expect 90% of the time you're going to encounter. One of those is going to be the why do you want to become a doctor stage, which we'll look at in the next video. And the other one is going to be the CV station. So we'll take a look at that one right now, the CV station. And I just have a few tips of how to prepare for this station. Now, if you're somebody who watched my med school admission guide and you took the information from it, the part where I talked about the work experience section of your CV, I said it was the most important part. And the reason I said that was if you had a great work experience section of your CV, the rest of the application and the interview are going to seem really easy. We saw how that worked out for our personal statement. It was really easy for us to write because we picked activities based on these skills and experiences they developed, obviously skills and experiences relevant to being a good physician. Well, the same is going to apply for the CV station. So what exactly is the CV station? You're going to go in the room and, it's just going to be you. This is going to be you. And you're going to have the interviewer. And she's going to have your CV, or he is going to have your CV. And it's going to be discussion based on the items on your CV. Now, it could work out in one of two ways. The first way is that they might be picking the things they want to talk about. So they tell you, they choose items to talk about. Or you choose items to talk about. So just, this is just to prepare you to know what to expect, right? I mean, they might be picking things from your CV, and they're not going to go ahead and pick some random things. They're going to pick the things that seem the most creative, something they might not have seen before, or something that they can tell you are going to be proud of. So they won't just purposely pick some, summer job you had for a month, right? They're not going to go ahead and do something like that to you. They're actually going to pick something that they believe you would want to talk about. And this is all going to relate back to the big question. Well, we know we have two big questions. First big question is, why do you want to become a doctor? And the second big question is, why do you think you would be a good physician? I probably should have centered this bottom part. It's going to bother me. Whatever. So why do you think you'll be a good physician? That's the question we always go back to. So you want to be sure that the work experience section of your CV, which is the one they're going to mainly focus on, is going to have, prepared what skills you're developing with each stage. And we're going to look at this in a moment, right? So you know that some will be leadership, some will be communication, some will be, quick thinking. Have all of them, prepared in your mind, right? Because they might be asking, or you might be telling them what you want to talk about. It all has to relate to why you'll make a good physician. So we're going to approach this with a similar approach that we did when writing our personal statement. Let's take a look at how we would do this right now. So what should we prepare in advance, right? We are going to have our CV. So let's just say this is our CV over here. For some reason, we wrote it on yellow paper. Okay, here we go. So this is your CV, and you have your work experience. Let's just go ahead and jump into that section. So you have your work experience section of your CV. So let's go ahead and say summer camp leader, right? Summer camp leader was one of our positions. For each position in the work experience section of your CV, you want to, plan this out. You don't have to script this, right? You don't want to be walking there with a script and you sound like a robot when you're reciting it. Just have an idea what you would say for these categories. Say which skills or experiences you're gaining. Relevant to being a good doctor. So plan that out, right? Start out by saying, if they ask you to talk about your summer camp position, or you'd like to talk about your summer camp position, start out by, saying which skills you gained from it. So I gained leadership skills by being a summer camp leader at whatever summer camp you're at. Next, a quick brief sentence on why it's a good quality for a physician. So why this skill / experience for being a good physician. So we saw that similar format when we were writing our personal statement, right? We say which skill we want to talk about, then we say why it's important, and then the last thing that I like to include is a specific example. And if you want to have an example of a specific example, an example of how I would go about getting these 3 things, go back and check my personal statement example. I provided an actual example from my personal statement, which showed how I went about doing this, right? So, while in that one we were talking about quick thinking, right? And I said that I gained quick thinking from my time as a first responder for a university. So that was my quick thinking. And it's a necessary skill because as a physician, a few seconds could be the difference between life and death. Well, my specific example doesn't have to be from that activity. It will have to be related to how gaining this skill or these experiences helped you to help someone else, for example, or helped you in a certain walk of life, which you can see reflecting being a good physician. So in my case, like I said, I was waiting for a train and somebody crashed into the train station and their foot was still on the gas and they were unconscious and their doors were locked and their tires were burning and not burning, but they were making a lot of smoke, right? And the smoke was obviously not something you want to be inhaling. So I noticed this person was unconscious. After I called 911, I realized I probably should get their foot off the gas. I took a brick that was available because the floor of the train station was outside was made of bricks, so there was a few loose bricks. I took one and I broke the passenger side window. I got in the car, I moved her foot off the gas, and I left her on the seat because I knew that she may have spinal damage. These are things that I learned from my time as a first responder, and that's an example of how it helped me out. So that's the way I would go about formatting this, right? The purpose of this video is that you guys should plan out, just these 3 points over here, right? Point number 1, which skill did you gain from it? Point number 2, why is it important to have this one? You don't have to talk about this forever, right? Like 1 or 2 sentences on why it's important or why you believe it's important. And then number 3, an example of either a time at this position or a time that this skill that you developed from being at this position has helped you out. So in my example, it wasn't necessarily something that I was doing while I was actually a first responder. It was, another time I was going to volunteer at another place. So it was not while I was at a first responder's position, but it was some skills that I gained as a first responder. But if something had happened while I was a first responder, I can include that here as well. So that's my guide for the CV station, right? Go through your CV, just, take a pencil. You don't want to make a script here, right? You just want to have, 3 quick points. Go from each thing on your work experience section, your CV, the things that they're going to question you on. Go ahead and make 1, 2, 3, and just have some things written here, right? Just have an idea of what you're going to say if they were to ask. Don't plan it out like a script. It will come naturally. As long as you just know where you're going to start taking your conversation, everything will go fine. If you have any questions about the CV section of your MMI, the CV station, leave a comment below. I'll respond to you as soon as possible. And I'll see you guys in the next video. We're going to be tackling the big question, why do you want to become a doctor? It's going to be great. I'll see you then.